Hey, I'm Sven Masterson, one of the co-founders and mentors in the Mentoring Men community. And in this video, I want to talk to you about the topic of resentment. I would say a fair majority of the men that reach out to us in relationship crisis have a high degree of resentment. And you know, we don't judge men who reach out to us for having this resentment, because as married men ourselves, we all know what it feels like to be resentful. And we also know from talking to hundreds of men worldwide that resentment is a very common and really ubiquitous experience among married people. And so a lot of people can't figure out what to do with the resentment. I couldn't figure out what to do with my resentment, and it ate at me like a cancer for probably about 7 years, where I had just had it up to here. And I was thinking about ending my marriage because I was just so filled with anger and contempt, bitterness and resentment. And I didn't understand where that resentment came from. And fortunately, some mentors entered the picture for me and showed me how to navigate that space. And so I want to begin in this video to show you how to navigate through and beyond resentment. But to do that, we have to understand why we get resentful. You know, a lot of times if you search for something about resentment, or you talk to somebody, you get this unhelpful advice. Well, stop being needy, or stop being resentful. To me, that's like saying stop being hungry, stop being thirsty, stop sweating in the heat, right? It's not useful information. And so we want to go deeper, and we do go deeper in our community, but we want to go deeper in this video with you and explain why you're resentful and what you can do about it. Now, I'm a man that enjoys metaphors. And if you watch any of my videos, you know this about me. And those in a relationship with me know that metaphors are a strong part of my practice in helping myself and other men through these things. So I want you to picture for a moment that I take you and 9 other people and I put you in a room. And I say, you know what? You can't actually exit this room and live a full life unless you have $1. And I hand you, and I hand each person in the room 30 pennies. So I give you 30 cents, and I make sure everybody in the room only has 30 cents. I shut the door and I say, you can't leave and you can't live a good life unless you have $1. Now, if you're even reasonably intelligent and you have beyond an elementary school understanding of math, you're probably already figuring out, well, okay, we could take some pennies from one person and some pennies from another person, and a few people could have 100 pennies. But you should also be figuring out by now that with 30 pennies per 10 people and a person needing 100 pennies to have well-being, that everybody in that room cannot have 100 pennies and therefore well-being. And so that system creates a system where there's winners and losers. And it creates a system of competition. It creates a system where people have to negotiate. Hey, how about you give me some of your pennies? That way I have more pennies and I can leave this room. But you know, if you did that, then you have to take pennies from somebody. And then where are they going to get pennies? You see, it would leave you a few people that have to stay in the room. They can't have their well-being because they've given it away in the service of others. Now, I want to suggest that this is how most people live their life when it comes to a sense of well-being. They start out with the belief that there's a deficit of well-being and that they get some of those needs met by other people. And so we tend to enter relationships in life with the expectation that some of our needs for our sense of well-being will be met in another person. But I want to ask you, how is that different than what I'm suggesting with this 10 people with 30 pennies in a room? Because if somebody is going to give you something to meet your needs, where are they going to get their needs met? Where do they give the stuff that they give to you? And if they just have an inexhaustible supply of stuff, well, then that begs a couple questions. How come they're able to have all of the well-being they need and you're not? Now, this is how you have to start thinking in order to break the belief, because it's a feeble belief, that your well-being comes from other people, that needs must be met from other people. In my story, I want you to think about the needs being the penny. And so if I only have 30 of my needs within myself, I have 70 more that I have to get from other people. And so I have to take some from that person, some from that person, some from that person. And I'll spend really all my time trying to negotiate to get more pennies. And this is what tends to happen to people these days in a relationship. We get caught up in a whole bunch of drama and stress and fear and anxiety in trying to get more pennies, trying to get our needs met from other people. But it's in a system where, if that's true, everybody has a deficit of pennies. Or there are people that have well-being and there are people who don't. And usually, or actually both, would have to be true in such a system. It's not a system that can lead you to exiting that room and living a life where you have a well-being. Now, I want to suggest something else. I want to suggest instead that when you're born with all of the pennies you need, that you have a sense of wholeness, that there's nothing incomplete about you. Yes, you still need to grow, you still need to mature, but there's nothing that you need for a sense of well-being that is outside of you. Now, this makes a lot of people angry because it's quite easier to live a lot of life if we can just make other people responsible. So if you ever notice about kids that when a kid's physical needs are met, they're generally just really squared away until they get a little bit older, but they're kind, they think the best about people, they don't tend to judge other people, they're friendly, they're open, they're present. They're actually all these great things that most adults would love to be. But that's because kids haven't figured out yet. They haven't started playing this terrible, dreadful game of believing that they don't have enough pennies. And you know, once we start doing that, which we do somewhere in childhood, when we start to judge ourselves, we start to judge ourselves as not having our needs met, not actually meeting whatever standards there are for being whole. And you know, the moment we do that, the moment we don't believe we're enough, we start asking other people to make up that deficit. Oftentimes we take some of our pennies and we say, here, would you hold these for me? That's another thing we do. And we do that because we don't trust ourselves to be able to manage and control those pennies, our well-being. And so we say, I need you to hold these for me and I need you to take care of them. Now, we do this by looking to other people to tell us that we're okay. And this is a really common pattern in a relationship like marriage. We get married, we say, I'm going to give you my pennies, and I want you to give them to me anytime I ask. And so then we get about our business, we're going about life, and remember, we don't have all of our pennies, or we don't believe we have all of our pennies. We've asked people to hold some of the ones that we possess, and then we go to them in a moment of feeling like we need some well-being, and we don't like how the kind of job they do in giving those pennies back. And this is where resentment comes from. Resentment comes from having a dependency upon someone else for something that you need, want, or desire. And when they don't give it to you according to what your brain says is the right way, you judge them, you're harsh on them, you're disappointed with them, you start to become angry, you start to become frustrated. And that eventually will lead to resentment. But that resentment is there because you have asked them to hold on to and manage your needs. Now, what most people don't know, and we show men every day in the Mentoring Men community, is that all of your fundamental needs for your sense of self, for your well-being, every single one of them are needs that you can own. None of them actually must be handled by other people. It sure feels like it sometimes, and we know this as people who've been through this. But those feelings of, I need other people to tell me I'm okay, are actually just coming from a feeble sense of self, a low sense of self-worth and value and significance, a lack of trust and confidence in ourselves. And primarily, if I distilled all that down, to judging ourselves and experiencing shame, the belief that I'm not enough, I'm incomplete. When you judge yourself and you have a sense of shame, you will always feel a deficit of self. And wherever you feel a deficit of self, you will ask other people to fill that in. You'll feel like a person who's got 30 pennies in a 100-penny world, and other people have to make up that 70 cents in your deficit of well-being. And when they don't cooperate with that process, or they don't cooperate how you wish, you'll feel resentment, you'll feel anger, you'll feel contempt. So the solution then, though simple in principle, it takes some time to work out. And so the first thing you have to work out is, why am I living as though I don't have enough pennies? Why am I living as though I'm incomplete? Why am I living as though I'm not enough? And like I said a few moments ago, it actually goes back to learning to judge ourselves at a very young age and coming to the conclusion that there's something woefully wrong with me. And that is the pattern. That is the pattern that gives birth to dependency. And you know, you can find all those. You can find all those places where you are actually looking outside of yourself for a sense of well-being. It shows up, interestingly, in your emotions. Emotions are like a dashboard warning light in a car that comes on anytime something is askew. And you know, everywhere that you're looking outside of yourself, you will experience a painful, difficult, hard emotion. And so what we help men do in mentoring men is we help them to learn how to watch their emotions, how to look at them, and how to share them with other men who will love them and not judge them in the process, and learn to take these emotions and use them to understand what are the needs that I have given to other people to hold. And then we help those men understand, what are the beliefs in my belief system that led me to believe that other people must own this for me. We ask them some deep questions. We ask them, well, you know, what is it you want, need, or desire? That's not a deep question. And then we ask them, well, what would you get that you don't have now if you had that met? And what that's doing is it's helping us get to the root need, because we tend to mix up what our needs are with our strategies for meeting those needs. And so that's kind of complex sometimes to work through, but we help men kind of get down to, what is it I need? And you know, there's always some major themes, but we find in every single circumstance that the thing a man wants is not something he has to get from someone else, but he's come to believe that it is. And when he starts to see that that need is something he is capable of meeting, he lets go of that dependency. Now, that does not happen overnight. This happens in a slow process. It usually takes 6 to 12 months, some men more, because it takes a lot of rewiring of our insides to come to the conclusion that, oh, I can meet this need myself. I'm so accustomed to getting somebody else to meet it that our default, our kind of knee-jerk reaction is to keep doing that. And so we have to learn slowly to start becoming the source for our own need. This is what we call in our community self-reliance. And it's not the kind of self-reliance that stocks, flashlights and first aid kits and duct tape in your basement for the apocalypse. It's a self-reliance that means we learn to look inward for our sense of self, And when we do that, we basically stop looking at other people. And when you stop looking at other people and you stop judging them for how they're not meeting your needs, what you're left with is acceptance. And when you accept people and they're no longer on the hook for how they haven't met your needs, you find that they have much more interest in relating to you. And because they don't feel judged, they feel your acceptance, they don't feel your disappointment, they don't feel your resentment, contempt, bitterness, anger, rage. They see instead a person who's way more approachable, who's somebody they can connect with. And so we find over and over and over again in the men that we work with that this begins to heal their relationships. Not just their relationship with their romantic partner, relationship with siblings, parents, friends, colleagues, etc. Because dependency will ultimately ruin just about every relationship, because dependency leads to record keeping, judgment, and with that judgment, disconnection. Okay, so if you've been paying attention, I hope by now you have understood that we have resentment everywhere we have dependency. And to be free of resentment, well, we have to be free of dependency and replace dependency instead with self-reliance. I've also explained how when we do this, it actually lubricates the relationship in a really special way by replacing the hard feelings that we have because of our dependency with feelings instead of warmth, kindness, appreciation, gratitude, and creates connection where there had been disconnection from those hard emotions. Now, I don't expect you to become a master at this process by watching one video. I just want to really kind of pry the door open on the cause behind the resentment that you have, the contempt that you have, and begin to show you there is a way out. There's a way out of your hard feelings, and when you turn your hard feelings around, we find that it helps the person in your life who you relate to, primarily your significant other. It helps them to turn their hard feelings around. Now, you're not responsible for their hard feelings. You're not the cause. You're not to blame. We don't blame men for the way their partners relate to them. But you do have a role to play in taking a relationship to the next level. And so you can move from deep resentment to deep emotional connection, restored intimacy, a sense of deep appreciation and admiration and mutual respect for one another. You can move your relationship beyond this disillusionment stage that you find yourself in. And that next stage that you get to go to is this stage of acceptance. But it can't happen until you overcome your resentment. And to overcome that resentment, as we've mentioned in this video, you must replace your external dependency with self-reliance. Now, I don't expect you to figure out how to do that in one video, and though I would love to spend my time making YouTube videos explaining how to do that, what we actually find is that people aren't lacking information, they're lacking transformation. And the best place to experience transformation is in a relationship with transformed people, people who have already made or are making that journey from resentment and external dependency to self-reliance and freedom and a strong sense of self. And so I want to invite you to connect with us, to connect with the Mentoring Men community if you're a male, and come and see what we're doing. Come and see the freedom that men are finding from their deep dependency and their hard emotions that result, and find out and see for yourself the transformation taking place in their lives, their marriages, their relationships with their significant others and kids and siblings and parents. And you can see for yourself just how this works. If you're interested, I would like to invite you to scroll down below and read the video description. You're going to see a number of links in there. The first link you'll see is how you can request a free session with myself or one of the mentors in the Mentoring Men community, where we'll spend 60 to 90 minutes just talking with you about your situation, hearing your story, hearing your challenges, and offer our feedback and perspective as men who have navigated some of these very same places. We do that as a free gift to you. We ask nothing for it in return. It's complimentary. There's no sales pitch. There's nothing in a sales funnel. It's just straight up man-to-man conversation. And people tell us all the time it's some of the deepest conversation they have had in their entire life. All that it can start below if you just click the link requesting a free session. If you want to skip that, or in addition to that, you want to just look at joining our community, you can scroll a little further down and you'll see a link for how to go ahead and sign up and explore the Mentoring Men community a little bit deeper. Now, that community comes with constant ongoing dialogue with high character, high value men all over the world who are really seeking to live their very best, who are living lives of personal responsibility and agency, men who refuse to be blame-oriented victims, men who are out there just becoming their best. And we have men all over the world in this venture working together with one another. And if you want to be a part of that, you can scroll down below and find out more how to do that. Lastly, there's one more link on there to our Renewed Masculine Man program. Now, in the Renewed Masculine Man program, we spend 6 months with men, taking them from a place of a life filled with anxiety and fear and shame and insecurity and judgment and contempt and bitterness and frustration and a falling apart life and a falling apart marriage. And we show these men exactly how they got there and exactly how to get out. And men tell us all the time it's one of the most transformative thing, if not the most transformative thing they have ever experienced. You can find out more about that and that process where we do more of what we talked about in this video by scrolling down below and clicking the link to the Renewed Masculine Man. With that, I wish you the best in your journey to leave resentment behind and to venture forth into a life of acceptance and warmth and gratitude and appreciation. And I hope to see you there. I'll see you soon. Take care.